Joining me today is a very dear friend of mine that I got to meet on the road last summer with her amazing family, Brynn Marie of Pennsylvania. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Amanda, for having me. And it's always awesome to see you.
Yes. So just to kind of give people a little background, because here I am, this South Dakota farm girl, and you are this amazingly talented, gorgeous singer from the East Coast. What brought us together was this really cool tour
Yeah.
celebrating faith, family, and freedom. And you guys, you and your husband Josh are just such a power couple and just made such an impact on the road, I think. So I guess could you tell us a little bit about you and your husband and your story, just who you are and what makes your family so unique and special and wonderful?
Well, you're so sweet, first of all. Thank you. Secondly, oh gosh, grab a cup of coffee because it's quite the story.
That's why I have you here.
Oh my gosh. I was like, where do I even begin? I was living in Nashville, Tennessee, pursuing a music career. I was on the road touring. I'm a singer-songwriter. Opened up for a lot of artists, such as like tour with Pat Benatar, Cheap Trick, or Speedwagon, Heart, just to name like a few, which they're, the legends. They're amazing artists. And so here I was down in Nashville and pursuing that. And I met my husband, Josh Himes, who's a professional boxer. He's now retired. He has over like 50 registered fights, but he's just incredible. And he was living in Miami. So it's just, what's the odds of us really coming together? But we did. Faith and brought us together, and we moved to Nashville, and then we started having a family, and we decided to move up to Pennsylvania where the family, where everybody lives. But here we are. We're up here on the East Coast now. We have 3 kids, a 1, a 2, and a 3-year-old. So let me tell you, it was, Amanda knows, it was like chaos before I even got on here because my kids were still awake and no one's wanting to nap. And so, but it is we're like the Italian crazy family. But we are just so full of love for our country and our faith and all of our family values. We hold them very dear to our hearts. And so we find it really important to, as a couple and as a family, to reach families and encourage families to strive for that and not to lose sight of really what's important in life, Yeah. And so, yeah, here we were all together. Me and Josh and the 3 kids were on this tour bus. We're touring the country with Trent and Amanda and so many other amazing people who just share the same passions. And we met you,
Yeah.
And that's how we met. And so here we are now,
Fast forward a year later. I want people to understand what this tour was like. So it was called the Arise USA Tour. It was all these people that came together that loved this country, that see challenges moving forward and want to fight for a better future for their kids. And to say you guys left a lasting impression is an understatement, because here is your husband, who is this amazing athlete. He looks the part, like he looks like a bad dude. And he gets up on stage and uses his fighting background as an analogy for, fighting for what's right and standing up for what's right. And then you have that similar message, except you come from it from a mom perspective, a mama bear fighting for her kids.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget being in Keystone, because you're up on stage with your little boy on your hip, or I can't remember, which one did you have on stage?
Yeah, I had Ace. Yeah. Ace is like just under a year old. Yep.
Yeah. And you're singing up on stage with him on your hip, and the crowd's going wild because they just you parade a baby in camouflage up on a patriotic 4th of July event. It's like slam dunk,
Oh. And I remember thinking, I'm like, I don't know. I've never done it before. I never took a baby on stage. Like, what is this going to be like? But I was like, it is what it is. If it's a mess, it's a mess. If it's not, it's not. Just embrace it. But so this is my son, Gabby. Yeah, buddy, I'll get you more.
It's kind of like me when I'm trying to do a recording. It's like, eventually you're just like, I don't care. Have the box of cookies. Just quiet for 2 minutes, and then mommy will be back.
Like, whatever you want, bud, just get it.
But you know what? I think the culture is changing so much. Like, we pulled our kids from the public school system and we've been homeschooling, but I'm still working. And so they come with me to everything. And sometimes it's super hard. It's like, okay, everything takes 10 times longer and there's so many interruptions. But at the same time, I think people are excited to see kids too. And it's like, they're going with me to meetings and to listen to political politicians on their campaign trails speak, and they're asking questions. And so I'm just a few years ahead of you as like maturity wise on the kids. I will say it does get a little bit easier.
I can see that. I can see that as the weeks go by. I'm always like, oh my gosh, I actually see how it's going to be. It does get a little bit easier, and it gets harder in a different way. But
yes.
But your little ones, I mean, they're going to grow up knowing so much more, and the way you homeschool them, I look up to you for that. We're not at that page yet, but like we're already starting. I mean, my son makes homemade, pasta sauce with me, and he'll sit there and smash all the tomatoes. And it's just really important. We just, all the fundamentals, of life and just what we want to instill in these kids. We're already doing it now, and being on the road, sometimes they learn more. They just learn more.
They do.
And they're hands-on. I think it's so important.
Learning by doing and just being around adults and asking big questions. And so I guess what prompted you guys to hop on that tour bus and go?
So Karen Staley, who was on the tour. So I was pretty much like a replacement for her because she was going like under a surgery. And she was like, Brynn, like, is this something you'd be interested in doing? And of course I was flattered when she asked me, because Karen is a singer-songwriter in Nashville, and she's just incredible. And I've known Karen for many, many years. So it was just everything comes full circle again. You're like, wow, you're reconnecting with your friend that you haven't seen for a little while. And so when she asked me, I just said, oh, well, that sounds great, but like, I don't leave my kids anywhere. I take my kids everywhere. And my family is really important. And we're all about keeping the family unit together, no matter what we do. And we just find it very important to keep that as what we stand on. And so I was like, oh, that'd be great. But I have kids. I have Ace wasn't even one yet, I don't think, but it was like, I don't know. He was like 9 months old, and then I had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. So it was just Gabri, actually, my oldest, spent his birthday out on the road. But it was just one of those things where we're like, do we think we can get on a tour bus and do this? And Josh and I, as parents, said, I think there's nothing more important. Even these kids are this little, I think it's so important to show them, even eventually down the road, like, Mommy and Daddy, we just didn't stay at home. We wanted to take you guys and have you guys be an example and stand up and fight for the future for our kids and everybody else's kids, and we're just very passionate about it. And there was, even though there's things you can always do at home, but that opportunity gave us, the ability to hit the road and just meet as many people as possible and try to make an impact.
Yeah. And, going to these political rallies and these freedom rallies, I've noticed there's a lot of boomers. There's a lot of retirees that make it. But I think like when you guys showed up, or when young people show up, it's like a little beacon of hope that, the next generation is involved. And I'd say, obviously, it is way harder for our generation to go and do these things. We have jobs, we have kids, like it's just a busy season of life. And yet, if you don't make it a priority, we're going to be like, when we're old and our houses are empty and quiet, we're going to think like, what happened to this country while I was busy changing diapers? And so it's like, you can't take your eyes off of everything else that's going on in the country, but at the same time, I totally agree with taking care of that nuclear family and like sticking together in a time when it seems like they want to tear us apart.
They want to tear us apart. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And two, we wanted to set an example that there's always excuses that can be made. People can say, oh, I can't, my hands are full, or I got this. And I was like, Josh, if we just do it and we just stick it out, we can be an example that no matter what you have on your plate, no matter how much you have on your plate, you can still do it, and just be an example of like, we had 3 kids. We had 3 diapers. No one was potty trained. I mean, literally it was
on a bus.
And then I took my dad with me out on the road because, Nana was able to play some music and Nana was able to help with the diapers. So we all kind of like tag team one kid, and we had 3 car seats on the tour bus. Like it was really crazy. And their sleep schedule, sometimes they'd stay up till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock because they were off, with the time. So it was such a challenge, but where it was rewarding is that we actually just did it. Like we look back and we're like, how did we do that? Like there's times I'm like, I don't even know how we did it, but we did it.
You survived it. And
by
you
the grace
guys,
of God, and just, we found our strength. We dug deep. And I think that families, when you put that time into your family and you know, like, what your family is fighting for and what they stand for, and you say, no matter what, I'm just going to stand on our values and we're just going to go for it. You find that inner strength, and it kind of just energizes you to do even more than you ever imagined that you could do. So I found it inspiring for our family. I felt like, even though we felt like, we were giving hope to other people, their reactions fed us too. So, our spirits were fed by so many people, and just the prayers that you'd meet like strangers out in the road, and you're praying with all these families throughout the country, and gaining that hope.
Yes.
And I just remember, I got to say real quick, your daughter, when she came up on stage and said the Pledge of Allegiance, I think that was at the 4th of July.
It was. And you know what? Are you a parent or teacher looking for accurate resources to teach kids about where their food comes from? Consider checking out my books at amandaradke.com. These stories highlight the men and women who provide us with the essentials of life: food, fiber, and energy. Beautifully illustrated by Michelle Weber, these books are a work of art, and they have an educational message as well. Find them at amandaradke.com. Families standing up and doing what is right, and favorite memories. And you had mentioned my daughter, doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And honestly, I go back and watch that because I just was crying. I mean, I'm biased. It's my kid,
Of course, but
but it's my little 7-year-old walks up on stage, and that day it was 1,000 people, and she's given the pledge, and the crowd goes wild. And it was just like peak mom moment there. I was like, yep, I'm doing something right here, and I have a lot of, I wouldn't say insecurities, but worries, that we took them out of the school system, and like, okay, they're not getting the normal childhood experiences. But I'm like, you know what? I carved her that experience, and that set it up for
huge.
Other things. And
And how old was she?
7.
Okay, so she's 7.
Yeah.
She's standing in front of hundreds of people.
Right.
Doing the Pledge of Allegiance in front of her mom. Like, I would have been bawling. But I just remember I filmed it on my phone, and I was like, this is so sweet. Like, I just remember thinking, like, that's what it's all about. Like, it's like kids just feeling like, first of all, having the knowledge, what I mean, that you taught them the Pledge of Allegiance, but like to stand up there in front of all these people and just say it as boldly and as proud as she did was just an awesome, awesome moment. And I guess that's really what gives me the hope, is when I see these little kids that are being educated even by their moms, by their grandparents, by their loved ones, and they're learning the real values of things that I don't want our country to lose because it's being wiped away. And so we find it very critical. Like, just the other day we were just talking about what's the most important thing, like when people want to put a kid in school, or if that's okay if we talk about this, right?
Yeah. Okay. Wherever you want to go.
But because I want to touch base with this, because obviously I look at you as like a homeschooling queen, okay? Because you do so. No. I mean this, because you're teaching your kids hands-on stuff, the farming, the ranch, writing books. Like, there's so much that you're doing, and you're teaching them, and just being like a hardworking mom, a mother that's standing on her values. Like, I really, really give you a lot of credit, and I look up to you because, I left church just like a few weeks ago, and I remember telling Josh, I said, the most important thing in this world that we lose track of, it's not about who's going to this private school. It's not about what school they're going to, or AAA, or they have the best sports. That's all you hear. That's all you really hear people talk about. And it's like, well, maybe we should be refocused on, it doesn't even matter. Let's just say, yes, we want our kids to be smart. Obviously, we want them to be brilliant, right? We want them to be brilliant. We want them to common sense. We want them to think for themselves, where they're stripping that away completely. They want everything just misinformation, if it's something that's even your own belief, And so I said, the most important thing is that they know God, and that they walk with Jesus, and that they have, like, when the world is tough and they don't know where else to go, they know to fall back on his word, because he will never fail you, and love never fails. And so I kept saying, Josh, more than anything, I want these kids to know Jesus. I want them to have a pure heart. I want them to constantly know what it's like to give, and how to sow seeds, and how to be hands-on with people. And I guess for me, looking forward to homeschooling, which I already am. I mean, really, I am.
You
Like,
are.
I sit around
Well,
and do
that's,
arts and crafts
yeah.
and
And
stuff,
that's the
but
thing.
it's
You don't
not.
have to stop at age 5. You're still teaching
No.
your kids forever and ever,
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, I'm already like, I put my kids at the table and we try to do little lessons and stuff. And like, but I enjoy it and I love it. And I just want them to have a really strong foundation to stand on. And when I thought about it, I was like, wow, isn't that something like we really should be talking more about just the family values and our faith. That's why we say faith, family, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Why it means so much is because that's really what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Education is great, don't get me wrong, but look how many people have done amazing things and these wonderful careers because they acted out of passion and had a good heart
Yep.
and did it for the right reasons. They didn't just sow a seed to try to get ahead of somebody else. They did it because they were pure. And
Yep.
and I really want my kids to thrive on that.
You're totally speaking my language, because I feel like I've had to die a slow ego death on like what I thought my kids' childhood should look like.
Yeah.
My husband and I were both super active in every activity and sports and all these things.
Yeah.
But and it was wonderful, but our whole lives were run, run, run all the time. Barely saw our families. I mean, thank goodness we lived on a farm where like we
Yeah.
were required to work a lot alongside of our parents. So there was that naturally built in. But so many activities where it was rare that we would have a family supper together. And it was
Yeah.
rare that we would have time to talk about our faith beyond what we talked about on Sunday morning for church and Wednesday for church class. And what I found most valuable of all is when we've decided to shift our perspective. And not that my kids won't do sports and won't
Right.
do, activities, but when we've shifted our perspective to number 1 is our faith, number 2 is our family. And we're going to focus on those 2 things every single day. That's our default. Everything else is like extra or,
Yeah.
secondary. And
Yeah.
so what I found most valuable is like the suppers around the dinner table
Yeah.
and being able to read good books about faith and history and our
Yeah.
country and then have these amazingly rich conversations with our kids. And it's like, okay, baseball can wait because right now
Yeah.
I'm giving them this foundation and I'm not gonna, the challenge is you get caught up in comparing yourself to like everybody else. What are all the other
Yeah.
parents doing? What is
Of
everybody?
course. Yes.
But we see in the last 2 years with COVID, a lot of people just followed the crowd instead of saying, okay, let me step back and think critically for a second
Yeah.
and make an educated decision for myself and my family without
Yeah.
just going along. So I want my kids first and foremost to have that faith, and then to be able to just think independently, look at the research and data, and then make a decision and then stand on it,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
But it's a challenge.
It is. And they're going to go into their own little beings, so they're going to think the way they want. But like, I think the way that you're raising them and just how important, like I keep going back to the faith, but really like if they stand on God's word, they'll learn like there is no fear.
Yep.
There
Correct.
is no fear.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think Josh did say this on the tour, but he was like, failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we like, when he would say that, I'm like, you're so right. When everyone talks about just what's going on in the world, it's like, we cannot at all control any of that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We might be able to control what goes on locally, which is really important. And so going to the school board meetings and being active, even though I'm not going to put my kids in the school just yet, just because I just don't think that it's the right fit for our family. I'm still going to go and I'm still going to talk and I'm still going to stand up for what I think, what I believe in. We're tax-paying, we pay tax dollars,
Right. Yeah.
And it's not just that. It's not even about the money. It's more about like, these are also going to be kids that my kids are going to be associating with. And this is the future of our world, and, they need to be fed truth and better things than creating diversity and everything else that's being given. So, but I mean, here we are, we don't even have kids in school and we're going to the school board meetings and standing there and taking the time out. And that's where you sacrifice the dinner table, And so it's such a catch-22 sometimes because you're like, I stand up and I want to do it, but then do I want to lose that family time? And so there's times we do as a family, like we don't get, to eat around the table like we want to, but like really, it's very seldom now. Like we're
Yeah.
being pickier and being like,
Yeah.
what is more important and
Hmm.
what is played in this house, the music, like make sure it's just all good stuff. And
Yeah.
because it's just, there's just too much of
There's a lot of noise in this
a
world, and
lot.
yet we pay really close attention to what's on the TV. You can't just anymore. Parents cannot just turn on Disney or Netflix or YouTube and
No.
hope for the best, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there. And I always tell my husband, every single day we have a choice to plant a seed, and that seed can
You're
take
right.
root, and it can be a bunch of weeds or it can be like a bountiful harvest. But it's up to us. We have to be the ones that cultivate these kids, and
Yeah.
even just like our own shortcomings. It's like they're around you, you have to be like a strong leader, which is
Yeah.
hard because we all have our own weaknesses. There's been times I've been
Oh,
totally stressed out in the last couple of years, but it's like they're watching how I react to all these things. I better step it up.
yeah,
And
right.
yeah, and on that, we're going to talk about how we can step it up after this short break from our sponsors. I'm
That's
Amanda
so
Radke, sitting with Brynn Marie. We'll be right back. And we're back in 3, 2, 1. And we're back. It is the second half of Roll Route. I'm sitting with the wonderful Brynn Marie, who I'm just like a total fangirl on. I'm just like, I gotta say, I'm still just kind of in shock that we're getting to visit, because you and your husband just have this star power about you. And I know there's 1,000 different things you guys could be doing in your lives, in your careers, all the things that you have and talents that you have to offer this world. And yet you're also saying our family is the biggest thing that we could ever do. And is it hard, I guess?
So sweet. Is it what?
Is it hard? Is it hard to like?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We say this, any career in life, I just feel like you take so much, you put so much time, you put so much effort, you put so much into your expectations, right?
Yeah.
Of, all this. But when we decide to have a family, things just change when you become a mom, or and a dad. And that's what got him out of the ring. I mean, I think he had one pro fight while Gavri was born, I think.
Wow.
My oldest. But like after that, he said, I don't want to risk it. And I was like, oh, thank goodness he said that, because I didn't want to be the one to tell him, hey, let's stop, because I want to support him and he supports me in my music. But the road life just wasn't for me, at the time. And I find it really important. That's what, like, when you ask me, it's hard. Yes, it is hard, because you sacrifice like who you are as like a person. So instead of me living the life that I used to live, or Josh living the life he did, we both said, let's sacrifice those careers, which are very draining and separate you from the family. They really do, because you're playing every night, or you're touring and this and that. But I'm still doing it, but in a healthy way. Like I actually I'm like happier now. I'm doing less shows, but like they mean something to me now. Like, so if I do a resort, I'm taking the whole family. We're spending the whole day there. We're hanging out. And then mommy goes for like an hour and a half, 2 hours max. And I just go play some music and I come right back to them and put them to bed. Like, and so like my son, it was so cute. He was carrying my, he's shiver me timbers. He's a little pirate back there. But anyway, he's like carrying my guitar cables. So it is like that learning, that hands-on, like he just wanted to learn, and like he sings around the house all the time now. And so I think it's healthy. I do think it's hard. It was definitely a learning process for me, because I was like, okay, my whole life is got to refocus here. Like these kids are the most important thing. And they're looking for mommy. And I know people can have a career and still have the kids. And I think that is kudos to them that they can do it. But I'm kind of not that kind of person. I'm like all in or all out kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like either really passionate or I just don't care. Like it's like I try to find that grace sometimes, but it's like I have a challenge with that. But so with the kids, I'm like, okay, I know what I feed them. We don't have like, we get every once in a while a blessing that somebody watches our kids so we can have dinner, Josh and I, by ourselves, but like it's not often. We're really hands-on parents, and we take a lot of pride in that. And Josh stepping out of the ring, I could tell that was difficult for him, but he's like, this is for the better. Now we're fighting for our family. And when he said that, I had chills, and like, I don't know, I just felt like, oh, this is what we're meant to do. We're meant to be parents, and just make sure that we're being led in the right direction instead of being like yanked. And that's why when I said going on the road, I wouldn't have taken the tour if I couldn't take my husband and my kids.
Yeah.
And so really that's where it was a massive blessing, is because we got to experience everything together.
Hey friends, the saying goes that freedom doesn't come free, and without the brave men and women serving our country to protect our freedoms and liberties, everything that we love and hold dear in this country would be for naught. So to thank the troops, would you consider buying them a steak? Check out the All-American Beef Battalion. Since 2007, the late Bill Brody and his team of volunteers have served over 400,000 steaks to the troops and their families as a way to say thank you. Learn how you can get involved and support this organization by checking out steaksfortroops.com.
As we close today, I thought Scarlett, she just crashed the show. Scarlett, would you end the show with the Pledge of Allegiance for us? All right, say it nice and loud so she can hear you. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.